Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a drama from Estonia, Estonian language English subs, released in the year 2017, directed by Rainer Sarnet, and this film is called November. So November is set in the medieval times. You've got a village that has been besieged by the plague. Everything looks very bleak, but there is a young woman named Lena who is in love with a young man named Hans. Now, unfortunately, Hans is oblivious to her true feelings. She doesn't know how to emphasize these feelings, and he is actually in love with a beautiful German baroness who's living in the village as well. And so it's a love triangle, but the future of each and every one of these loves doesn't really have a realistic outcome. And so Lena is trying her best to win over Hans, and she's getting very, very tired. And so she comes up with the idea that she is going to get her hands on a love potion. And this love potion is hoping that she is going to be able to win him over and the happiness that eludes her. But unfortunately, with the love potion come consequences that threaten to destroy the happiness that she so sorely wants. So whether or not she can win over the man of her dreams is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on November. This is one of the most beautifully poetic films that I have seen in a very long time, and I was really surprised. And when it comes to Estonian cinema, I'm not terribly familiar with it. There was a movie I saw a few months ago called The Fencer that I really liked. It wasn't a perfect film, but it was a film that I really admired for the level of competency as far as filmmaking is concerned. So it's definitely an area of the world that I'm not terribly familiar with. The ex-Soviet Union, it's a very interesting country, but it's a country that really haven't made films that have appealed to a broad audience. And so this is my second experience with Estonian cinema, and I will say that it is another film from Estonia that has really, really impressed me. Now, as far as creativity is concerned, it is a thing of the past. When it comes to American films, it's all about remakes, it's all about really cheap films or lazy films, and you don't really use your brain these days. It's movies that you don't really experience. Now, there are a few, but it's few and far between, and so it's not a frequent occurrence. But when it comes to European cinema, they are very different, and I believe that there is no better example than November. This is a film for a very acquired taste. This is an incredibly bizarre film, but as I said, it is poetically beautifully made. Is that the visuals, the soundtrack, the acting, the script, everything blends into a very dreamlike atmosphere, and that dreamlike atmosphere just captivates the audience. You'll get lost in this film. You will not know where the time went. This goes for 115 minutes, but I didn't look at my watch once. It's because Rainer Sarnet has the power to captivate an audience, whether it's through the black and white visuals, creating a sense of a different universe. You've got a strong underbelly that is very dark and ugly, but you've also got a theme of beauty. You've got Lena, who is a very innocent character who wants love. She wants happiness, but the happiness is a contrasting difference to the ugliness that is surrounding her. And so as the ugliness surrounding her starts to get smaller and smaller, and her world is starting to get smaller, you can sense that she's losing hope. And you want her to get the happiness. You want her to leave this village because she is the symbolization of everything that is good in this world. But unfortunately, the other characters in this movie are the symbolization of the wolves at the door. And the wolves at the door that are willing to manipulate innocence, manipulate people who are oblivious to the real world. And so Lena is living in this bubble, but outside the bubble it is very dangerous. And so this is what brings the sense of horror. It brings the sense of just something that is really unsettling. And so you've got so many contrasting emotions in this film that just makes it an experience. And so you've got very, very weird moments, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be put off by that. But for me, I just love the world building that Rainer Sarnet has done. It's almost like a Gothic folklore as far as Estonia is concerned. It's like looking in a book and looking at something that you haven't seen before. It's opening your eyes to a world that has been created by a very, very talented director. So you've got the visuals that were fantastic, very dirty, very grimy. There were some scenes that really creeped me out, and so I would say this is a very, very subtle horror film, but it doesn't try to be overly scary, and that's what makes it scary, is that it's coming through naturally. Whether it's the plague, whether it's the devil in this film, that I'm not going to give too much away, but that was very, very creepy, and it's basically selling your soul to the devil for happiness. And is that true happiness? And so happiness is something that eludes a lot of us, and it's eluding everyone in this film, and they're all so sorely striving for that happiness, but they're looking for it in the wrong ways, and so it's not really understanding what happiness is and how destructive that can be. So I just thought that was incredibly interesting. I thought the script was done in a way where every character is larger than life. There are no characters that felt like a waste of time. Everyone comes into the film, and everyone that does come into the film expands the story in a way where there's layers. It never gets boring. You're going from one step to another, and you're going to really great heights. And at the end of the film, it's just a strong level of tragedy to it. It's a very depressing feeling that you get, but at the same time, it's a very beautiful feeling that you get. And so you're not quite sure what to feel. You've got a script that is very strong in black humor as well, so it does have pockets of alleviation as far as not feeling too depressed, but it doesn't feel like different tones. It doesn't feel like in one moment it's a comedy, the next moment it's a horror film, and the next moment it's a drama. It's all very finely juggled, and that fine juggling that the director does allows the fluency to be very, very smooth. And so I always felt like I was watching the same film, but there were moments that allowed you to breathe, because you needed to breathe. It didn't want to hit you so hard over the head to make you really, really depressed. It just wanted to make you give you that sense of what these characters are going through, that basically happiness eluding everybody. And so there is a moment of happiness that you'll have a little giggle, but then it just brings you down again. It's just saying, okay, happiness is just out of reach. You can almost grab it, but it's not quite there. So it's a very cruel kind of game that this director is playing with you, but it's a game that I definitely think everyone should go and see. So you've got moments that it's not a very violent film at all, and it's not a very explicit film. There are moments that will shock you, but it's done in a very subtle way once again. And so there's a strong level of beauty to this film, but there's also ugliness. And so it's something that is just a very strange and awkward feeling that is provoked from the audience. And it's something that I just believe it doesn't come along nearly enough. And so this is the reason why I love November. And I believe it's a film that is special, because it is creating something of a difference. And so if it sounds like your kind of thing, this is definitely a film that I would recommend to everybody. I'm so glad I watched it. If I have any problems with the film, is that it goes for 2 hours. As I said, it completely engulfs you, but if you're not on board from minute one, you might find yourself a little bit bored. And so it's either you're going to hate it or love it. For me, I absolutely loved it, but if you're not into the very strange atmospheres, very strange happenings, then you might not be on board from moment one, and that might in turn affect your enjoyment of the film. But for me, I was just on board straight from the first minute, and I loved right up into the ending. And so it's an incredibly memorable experience. It's an experience that everyone needs to go out and see for yourself, because this is an indication of how good European cinema can be. So overall, for November, going to give this one 5 stars. I don't give 5 stars out very often, but I believe this movie definitely deserves it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.